The end of the first reading.
Thank you, David. And now I'm going to hand over to Nicola, who's going to do our reflection.
Thank you. And thank you very much, David. One of our children's favourite holiday memories is a result of our time spent in Wexford a few years ago. Buying supplies on the way back to our accommodation, we purchased a couple of rhubarb pies from a local bakery. Cutting the steaming pie open once back at our cottage, rather than the rhubarb that we was expecting seeping out from between the pastry, apple appeared instead. It was okay for us, as we quite enjoy apple pies as well as rhubarb. But if you'd purposely bought the apple pie only to discover the label mix-up on cutting it open, I'm sure you wouldn't have been quite so pleasantly surprised. Now, if I ever buy a fruit pie, the children will read the label and say, "What is it?" Why do I share this with you? Well, because today is the end of half-term week, a week in which I know many of you, like us, should have been away. I planned to spend time with family and friends, socialising and enjoying life together, having a holy day, just as those first believers were doing on the day of Pentecost. They were together having a holy day. So let us go back in time to life before God poured out his Holy Spirit, and to join with those early believers in that place where they were gathered. It's 50 days since the Passover took place, since you gathered in that upper room with Jesus, who then shared the bread and the wine of the meal and declared it his body and his blood. The following hours unfolded, bringing with them drama, confusion and events that you would never even have dared to imagine. In the weeks that followed, you have seen Jesus, you've eaten with him, spent time with him, and watched as 10 days ago he ascended up into heaven. And you've now begun to wait for the outpouring of the Holy Spirit that Jesus has promised would come down upon you. What would it be like? How would it feel? But in the waiting, though, life on earth goes on. The barley harvest is complete. Now the wheat harvest has also been gathered in. The wheat harvest being the pinnacle of this harvest season. It takes place 50 days after the Passover festival is celebrated. And this is known as Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks. It lasts, a festival that lasts for just one day, and concludes with a celebration of Yahweh's goodness and provision. And that is why you and the other believers are gathered together today, Pentecost, Feast of Weeks. But this Pentecost is to be unlike any you have or will ever again celebrate. It's into the joy of the festive atmosphere. The Holy Spirit comes with a sound from heaven in a rushing, violent wind. There's nothing slow and measured here, no indication of a graceful descending like a dove, but rather the Holy Spirit fills the entire house and comes and rests upon each believer like a tongue of fire, giving you the ability to speak in other languages. Languages, as we have heard, were not alien to everyone, but some able to understand, as those gathered in Jerusalem were from many places, and that locally spoke was not just their native tongue. It's no wonder that this outpouring of gifts, coupled with the celebrations planned for this day of Pentecost, causes onlookers to sneer and accuse the believers of being drunk even at 9 o'clock in the morning. But fast forwarding to today, for us, Pentecost, as followers of Christ, is the day that we celebrate and seek to continually celebrate the outpouring of the same Holy Spirit, that Holy Spirit that Jesus promised came on the day of Pentecost, on the already holy day, fulfilling the promise of God made through his prophet Joel, that I will send my Spirit upon my people. But we know that it wasn't just the ability to speak in tongues that the Holy Spirit enabled, but confidence in public speaking for Peter, healing of the sick, and later on we are going to pray for healing too. Transforming of lives, think Saul of Tarsus persecuting Christians, meeting Christ on the road to Damascus. Building up of community. Remember how believers joined together and shared what they had. Our dear friend Barnabas sold a field and gave money to the apostles. They worshipped together and shared food in their home, as we have been doing during our services at this time. When we are in church, when we're gathered around God's table, as we celebrate in Holy Communion, we make the memorial of Christ, as Eucharistic prayer A words it. We bring into the here and now by doing as Jesus said and remembering the events of the Last Supper. Perhaps in the same way that in recalling that holiday memory with you, I was once again making the memorial of being back at that kitchen table in our accommodation, cutting open a steaming pie in surprise as we laughed together. Today is Pentecost Sunday. We're remembering and celebrating when the Holy Spirit came in the past. Or are we celebrating with the expectation that he will come again, now, today, with tongues of fire and with passion to transform our worshipping life together? And when we look back on this time of COVID-19, will we look back with memories of a summer in lockdown, separated from family and friends whom we yearn to see? Or will we look back to this, the summer in which God engaged with us in a new and exciting way, preparing us and propelling us forward for the future that he has planned for us, and at the coming of the Holy Spirit at this time, equipping us for homeschooling, equipping us for isolating, for working from home, for being furloughed, was really just the beginning of what God was going to do next. Amen.